We know that smoking causes 69 plus cancers. If you already smoke, here's something you can use. If you are not a previous nicotine user, you're not supposed to be using this. But free will, it's there, it's accessible, and people are beginning their nicotine journey with it rather than ending their nicotine journey. A lot of people believe they're not using nicotine product. When FDA tested lots of products that said non-nicotine, they actually did contain nicotine. It's less harmful. Just because something is less harmful doesn't mean that it's good for you.
What are the new things we need to know as we start looking ahead to the end of 2025 and into 2026? I've always had just one goal for Dental Assistant Nation, and that was to reach as many dental assistants around the world as I possibly could. So thank you for being a part of the community, and I want to make sure that you have hit the subscribe button so that you can not only help us spread the message and we can grow our reach, but also to make sure that you are getting the latest episodes delivered right to you the moment that we drop them. We are all about dental assistant education and empowerment here at Dental Assistant Nation, and we want to make sure that we are reaching as many dental assistants as possible. So thank you in advance, not only for being a part of this community, but for helping us spread the word. Hey everyone, it is Kevin Henry, the founder of Dental Assistant Nation. So glad you've joined us for another episode. We are having back a return guest, and I'm thrilled to have her back because we're going to be talking about a really important topic for all dental assistants and all patients as well, and that is Sherri Warshaw. Sherri, how are you, my friend?
Great. So glad to be back with you.
I am glad. The last time you were on, we had so many dental assistants who reached out to me saying it was a very important topic, talking about tobacco cessation. We're going to continue that conversation today. But before we dive into it, Sherri, just let our audience know a little bit more about you, if you don't mind.
So I am a proud 53-year veteran of the world of dentistry. I've done many, many things, but I did start my career as a dental assistant, which is, a fantastic profession. And I went on to get some more training. I became a registered dental hygienist, which I've been for the past 30 years. And I currently work in the world of tobacco cessation with my company called Smokefree Steps. And I'm also, for the past 12 years, I've been the professional educator for Waterpick in my area, covering Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. So I'm out there in the field talking a lot to dental professionals. And when I do mention that I do also do tobacco cessation, invariably there is somebody in the room who has a friend, a husband, a brother, a sister, who they would love to get them stop using these products.
Is that why you're so passionate about this topic, or what is it that really drives your passion behind it?
Well, what initially drove my passion was that I've lost my whole family, with the exception of my brother, to smoking-related illnesses. And it runs the gamut from cardiovascular disease, causing stroke, heart attack, lots of lung cancer in my family, and other cancers. A lot of times people don't realize that smoking leads to a lot of more of the unusual cancers, stomach cancer, bladder cancer. And unfortunately, I've been touched by all of that in my own family, the worst being my mother. And so, once I lost Mom, I really became very, very passionate about having people not use these products. And by the way, she hadn't smoked in 10 years, but still died of lung cancer.
Well, sorry for your losses, and I'm so thankful you have this passion, because I think we need this out there, and we need a reminder that it's okay to talk about this with patients whenever they come into the practice, and as you said, with family members as well, if they're battling through this addiction too.
So one of the things that has changed so much, and I've been doing this with my company for the past 12 years, one of the things that's changed more than before is in dental offices or medical offices. There was that question, do you smoke? That's not an appropriate question anymore. Now we have to be very, very specific. Are you smoking, dipping, vaping, using cigars, using any sort of little packets. What are you using to get nicotine? And then often they'll say, oh, what I use doesn't have nicotine in it. And usually that's bogus because a lot of times there is nicotine. When FDA tested lots of products that said non-nicotine, they actually did contain nicotine.
And that's a really good point. And let's jump off on that because I talked about smoking cessation when we started, but really, are we talking about nicotine cessation?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. And I've kind of pivoted to calling it that as opposed to smoking cessation. But a lot of people, I don't want to just do exclusively saying nicotine because, like I say, a lot of people believe they're not using nicotine product. A lot of times they're going to the vape store and they're buying whatever liquid that they buy and they think that it's non-nicotine. So I try and be very specific. Are you using any of these products? And there's so many new things coming down the pike because big tobacco is so smart. And they have been lining up all of these new income streams, we'll call them, since smoking rates have been dropping in the last 25 years.
Well, let's talk about what are the new things we need to know as we start looking ahead to the end of 2025 and into 2026 as well.
Okay, so the number one thing we probably need to talk about are these little packets that come in a kind of a round container that almost look like a mint. And the number one product that you will see every time you walk in to pay for your gasoline or pick up a Diet Coke inside after you filled your tank is Zyn, Z-Y-N. And Zyn is a product that's been around since 2014, but was purchased by Big Tobacco, about 3 years ago. Once they purchased it, it really took off because they have the marketing capability to get it into more hands, more products. Just to give you an example of how much it has grown, in 2019, they said they sold about 126 million units. So we'll say those little tins. In 2022, just in the first 3 months, they sold 808 million.
Wow. Wow.
Now, if you had any other product and you had growth like that of hundreds of percent, you would have a winner. And so they have a winner. And this product, interestingly, I don't know if your podcast goes out to Canada, but a couple of years ago, the Ministry of Health went all in on a product called Zonic, which is the same as Zyn, and they made it over the counter. And within months, it got in hands of kids, and they said, oh my gosh, what did we do? So now, province by province, they've been trying to roll back and make it a prescription product.
It is amazing you started with Zyn because I'll be honest, I was going to ask you about that because the number of friends that I have that are using Zyn right now and are saying it's a great alternative and all the things that I think Big Tobacco wants the talking points to be about it. I'm hearing that more and more. So it's crazy that you started with that because that's where I was going to go.
Oh, yeah. Zyn is a little different. So all of these products look like almost like a tiny tea bag. And actually, it was originally snus was what it was called, SNUS. And it was a product that was developed by a company called Swedish Match. And Swedish Match was a wonderful company in Sweden that Philip Morris managed to buy in 2022. So, and they tried to buy it. It was bought and sold many times before that. But at any rate, the original snus product was developed in Sweden. And what they would do is they would take tobacco, but they would heat it, ultra high heat. It would be ultra pasteurized to get out any of the cancer causing, what we call the nitrosamines. And so in Sweden, they used it for cessation and to switch people over from cigarette smoking. That's not this product. This product is being almost, it's almost scandalously marketed. So in other words, they're marketing it as if you already smoke, here's something you can use. And actually, it's the first FDA authorized product, not FDA sanctioned, just authorized. And so that's creating a gray area. If you are not a previous nicotine user, you're not supposed to be using this. But of course, but free will, it's there, it's accessible, and people are beginning their nicotine journey with it rather than ending their nicotine journey. And that's my beef.
So let me ask you, and for those who don't know what Zen is, I just want to make sure that we kind of explain. It is something you put in between the gum and the lip, and it gives you that satisfaction, shall we say, that you might need whenever it comes to nicotine. What are the issues just with that between the lip and the gum?
So let's talk about Zyn versus a lot of the other products. So interestingly, most of these products like On and Rogue and Velo, and it goes on and on and on, they are a nicotine salt and nicotine salts that have been made in a laboratory. Okay. Zyn is actually derived directly from tobacco and then turned into a salt. The reason they turn these things into salts is because it crosses the blood-brain barrier quicker. So it's a way to get the nicotine into you much quicker because a cigarette will get it to you in 7 to 10 seconds. That's how fast it hits the brain. But now we're having to go through cheeks and in bloodstream and all kinds of things. So they're trying to get it there faster. So some of the things that are in a Zyn would be obviously nicotine, and it comes in a 3 milligram and a 6 milligram. Then they've got fibers, okay, and this is kind of like a cellulose or a wood pulp. Then they have flavorings. Then they have sweeteners like sucralose. Then they have pH adjusters. They all put pH adjusters in, some sort of thing that's going to make it for optimal absorption. Then they put humectants in, like glycerol or propylene glycol. Those are the same things that are in our vaping products, stabilizers, and last but least, water. So that's what's in that little packet, and it's highly, highly developed to get the nicotine into the bloodstream. This is not a product that Philip Morris or any of the other big companies are putting out for your health. These are products to addict you to nicotine so you will keep buying their product. Okay? So getting back to the oral problems. Okay, so here's the problem. Anytime you put something in your mouth in the same spot, you're going to cause an irritation. And people, just like when they use conventional dip, which people still use a lot of conventional dip, they have a favorite place they put it. They also, if they're in school and they're in high school, they don't want it sticking out in the front, so they're going to typically hide it in the same spot in the back while they're at school, right?
Sure.
So what are we seeing? We see irritation, we see erosion, we see recession, we see root caries because they keep putting it in the same spot, and then we start getting that recession there, and then we have an irritant. We see perio disease. We see hiccups, bloating, all kinds of things happen from this. And so it's not an innocuous product, and it's not something typically that people will own, like a weekend drinker.
Yeah.
Okay, there's very rarely a weekend zinner because what'll happen is you will be putting that in all weekend, and when Monday rolls around, you're going to need it again because it's a reward system. It activates dopamine, and dopamine makes you happy. So the more you use it, the more you need it because the dopamine, you'll get a spike and then it'll drop down, and then you're going to crave that again.
So if a patient walks in, we see the erosion, we see the irritation, all these different signs. Is this something we need to be asking about, and how do we do that properly?
Okay, so this is that slippery slope.
Exactly.
It's a very slippery slope because people love their stuff. When I was dealing primarily with cigarette smoking, that's their best friend. These Zyn packets have become their best friend. They're feeling a little down. They pop one of those in there, or they're feeling a little lethargic. So the best way to approach it is, has something changed with what you're doing on a daily basis? Because I'm seeing some different kind of changes in your mouth, and then fill in the blank, whatever that change is. With kids, and they're the main ones who are now ramping up, they're going to deny. And that's where it has to be. Look, This is a safe space. I'm not here to judge you on anything. I just want to talk to you about what are the effects of something that you're using in your mouth and how that can affect you long term. And also, your head, your mouth is connected to the rest of your body. The other problem with nicotine is it has lots of effects in the body. It changes cells, it increases blood pressure, it causes vasoconstriction. So it's not an innocuous drug. Nicotine is not a great drug. It has lots of negative effects.
And I'm glad you mentioned the oral systemic link because I think this is something that maybe gets overlooked whenever we're not talking about smoking anymore. We're talking about something different, and maybe we don't connect that. It's silly to say, but I think it's not as easy for us to think about what that little patch might do versus, as you said, smokeless tobacco that's put in there or the tobacco that's inhaled.
Exactly. Because we spent so much time talking about cancer in terms of smoking and dipping. We know that smoking causes 69 plus cancers. We know that dipping causes 28 plus cancers. Now they came out with this product, and people are like, great. It's called harm reduction, it's less harmful. Just because something is less harmful doesn't mean that it's good for you. And that's what I run up against all the time. Also, there are FDA approved medications that you can use in your mouth, a gum, a lozenge. We know exactly how these things are made, and we know exactly how to prescribe them and get you off of them. That's not our goal with Zyn. With Zyn, if we get you off of using them, Philip Morris and all the rest of these companies are going to lose money. That's not their goal. Their
Sure.
goal is how do we addict the next several generations? So I think we've exhausted that because I don't want to leave out two other things that I want to
No,
talk.
please, please.
Okay, so the next product coming in, which they've been trying to get into the US for several years, is called a heat not burn product. So this is called IQOS. IQOS. I quit ordinary smoking. It comes with a very sexy looking kind of an atomizer, kind of Apple phone-ish. And it's something that you actually use a stick of tobacco in, like a plug, a few inches long. It heats it, but it doesn't burn. And what that will do is cut down on the combustible negative things. Again, this is not a healthy product. This is a product, they've got lots of tobacco farms and they've got tobacco all over the world. What are we going to do with this tobacco if we can't put it in cigarettes? Oh, we're going to develop a sexy new system to go against vaping because people like the looks of those. So it's all over the world, but it's slow to get into the US, okay? Because we do have blocks to bringing these new products online, but it is in many test cities all over the country. And that's something that you will see. And they even set up their own stores. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's a really interesting product. I'm very surprised it's taken so long to get it to US. And the most important thing I wanted to talk to you is about something new for smoking cessation, vaping cessation, that we're hoping to get approved in the next year to 2 years, and it's called cytosine or cytisinicline. And this is a product that's been available all over Europe since the 1980s, used for smoking cessation. And the part of the problem with it is adherence, because when you use it, you have to use a lot of it. But it is designed to get you off of nicotine completely, and it's made from a plant. And so it's a very safe thing to use. But again, there's something called lobbying in our great capital. And what happens is, the cytosine people come in, and then the big tobacco people are there. And
Sure.
they've got way more money to say, oh, we don't need that. Now we have Zyn, or now we have On, or now we have Heat Not Burn. It's a political hotbed, really, really.
It's fascinating that that started in Europe because honestly, whenever I go to Europe for the IDS meeting in Cologne and other places, I'm always taken aback how much smoking there is over there, and obviously in public places and everything else where we've kind of backed that off in the US. Do you see some of these products? How do we balance, again, the knowledge that we have as dental professionals? How do we balance this knowledge versus, as you said, not preaching to people, but is it just letting them know the effects that these could have, even though they're being marketed as better for you?
Well, and the other thing is that the statistics show that cold turkeying any of these products is not going to work. You've got to use something, and also adding a behavioral constituent to it, and that's where I got involved in the behavioral. So I've worked with people for years before they quit, and I've worked with people twice and they've quit. So it's a very personalized approach. I think in dentistry, part of the problem is if it doesn't make money, we tend to discard it. And
Sure.
so what I'm saying is that having a program in your dental office would be great, but you need someone who really knows what they're talking about. So what you're acting as, probably as the assistant, is more of a gatekeeper where you're saying, let's talk about this. And let's see if we can't get you some further help with this. And are you even interested in stopping using any of these products? That's the main thing. You know, a lot of times they're not interested.
And if they say no to that question, is that okay for us to kind of back off a little bit?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
then you say, I'm always here when you're ready. When you're
Okay.
ready, we'll be ready. And we will be able to help you. Because it does take more than just, you know, if you're a smoker, it takes a lot more than popping a Zyn in your mouth saying, great, I'm going to quit smoking. Typically, what happens with those people, they're using 10 of these things a day. That's really unhealthy.
Wow. Yeah.
Really. You know, it's not, and also it's impossible not to salivate and be swallowing part of these things. Another problem is the incidence of children being poisoned by these has gone up exponentially in the thousands. The poison centers are getting these calls because, you know, people leave these tins lying around and the kid opens it and pops it in their mouth and they're poisoned.
There's so much out there, and I'm glad you're keeping tabs on this. And it's amazing the new products that are coming out that I think dental professionals need to know are out there. So thank you for staying on top of that. And how do our listeners and viewers reach out to you to get some ideas on how to talk about it, or maybe just to keep up with what's coming and what they need to know?
Well, my favorite thing to do is to share what I know. And my super favorite thing to do is to share it with dental professionals because I always say, when my kids say, Mom, why are you still working? Why don't you retire? I'm like, you don't understand. These are my people. I
That's awesome.
love dental people. So please feel free to reach out via my email, which is my name, Sherri Warshaw at gmail.com. And it's SHERRI WARSHAW at gmail.com. And then I have a very easy phone number. Feel free to text me, and then I can call you back. My phone number is 513-509-9998. A really easy one.
Exactly.
So I did that purposely so that people would be able to remember it because nobody can remember phone numbers anymore because it's just in our phone.
Well, the good thing is Sherri's email and phone number will both be in the show notes. Very easy for you to find, as well as I'm going to make sure to link back to the previous podcast that we did with Sherri. So, because we went down a whole different road that time. And so I want to make sure that the knowledge that you shared then is available now as well. But this was so timely and so important for our listeners to hear. So thank you for the passion and for the time, Sherri. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. I always love chatting with you and sharing, especially with assistants. I oftentimes when I set up my lunch and learns, they say, "Is this just for the hygienist?" Absolutely not. Very often, the patient feels more kinship with the assistant and will talk to them about things that they don't talk to the other dental professionals in the office about. So keep going, dental assistants. I champion you.
Well, and God bless you for saying that. And did you hear those three key words, lunch and learn? Just, another thing maybe to reach out to Sherri about for sure. So, again, my friend, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you who've listened to this very important episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. It's so important that you know what's out there that your patients are dealing with, as well as using, so when they come into your practice, you're prepared to not only talk to them about it, but maybe, just maybe, help them through it as well. Until next time, it's Kevin Henry, founder of Dental Assistant Nation, signing off, and as always, wishing you nothing but success ahead.